Hello, everyone. This is Lee Andrews with Akathame, and I am so excited to have the opportunity to introduce you, if you do not already know her, Dr. Carey, and I'm going to pronounce this correctly. Is it Yazeed?
That's correct.
There we go. I got the full name. This is going to be a difficult conversation for some people to hear, more so than others. So I want you to take this in view of a learning experience. This is not a place, not a time, nor a need for judgment or criticism. It is all about learning. If we are going to move forward as a culture and a worldwide community, these difficult questions have to be asked, and I have absolutely no shame in asking them. So let's get started, shall we?
Let's go.
I'm going to give Dr. Carey a chance to introduce herself with one question as she does that. So I want to know, Dr. Carey, as you start to introduce yourself, why do you insist on being referred to as Dr. Carey and not just Kerry?
Oh, good question. I would say for 23 years, I was known as just Kerry, and built a whole career around being just Kerry the author, just Kerry the mental health therapist. When I entered academics, so I do have a background in teaching and higher education. When I entered, I did not have my PhD. And I was reminded every day by my colleagues that I did not have my PhD, and that without my PhD, I would not soar to certain levels. And so I busted my behind for 3 years, which is unheard of in a PhD program. So that means that I did like double time to complete my PhD, to get that title that in academics is really highly revered. You know, like that's how you move around, is that you've got to have that onion skin that says that you have a PhD. A lot of people don't know that I still work in academics. I work in academics part-time, on top of doing what I do with my business. But it's also a level of respect in doing what I do. I found that Black women are not really respected. No matter how many degrees we have or what it is that we do, there's always that level of lack of respect for us. And so for me, I know what I've been through. I know the time that I put in to get to where I am. And you might not want to respect me, but we're going to walk out of here with some respect, because if nothing else, I've earned it. And I did earn my PhD, and I earned my doctorate right out from Louisiana State University. So yes, it's the title that I worked for, and when I die, they can put it on my tombstone too.
Bravo. Are you the first person or woman in your family to get an advanced degree?
I am both. I am the first female in my family to have a bachelor's degree. I was the first person in my family to have a master's degree. And I am the only person in my immediate family to have a PhD.
That's incredible. So it's interesting because my family, Sicilian immigrants, my father was the first to get all of the degrees. I was the first on his side of the family to get a degree, and he was the first to get the PhD. So it is amazing, isn't it? And it really annoyed the heck out of me when my father would introduce himself by his first name and not say doctor, because, I mean, it took him 15 years. So he was raising a family while he was going through his PhD. So we earned that. As far as I'm concerned, we all earned it.
You really do. It's a family effort. Like it
really is. You have to have that support system all around you. Even if you don't have if you don't have a husband and children, you still have family and friends who need to support you with it. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to keep calling you Dr. Carey, and am going to insist that others do too, because we earned it. All right. So let's get to the heart of the conversation as to why we're here today.
Okay.
And I asked you this question point blank after someone asked me, because I did not know the answer. So actually, you know what? I think I'm going to start at a different question first. Are all women good candidates to become entrepreneurs? Period. Are all women good candidates to become entrepreneurs?
I will say this. I don't think all women are good candidates to be entrepreneurs. To be an entrepreneur takes a certain characteristic in an individual that all individuals do not have. So just to say that you're a woman and you want to start a business, that's starting with the idea. But it's all the steps that you have to go through that a lot of people in general are just not willing or find that they're not capable of going through all of the steps that it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. So my answer would be that no, like all women, all people, period, are not good candidates to be entrepreneurs.
Okay, thank you. I tend to agree with you. So let's get to the heart of the question. Tell us how you came to focus on Black women for your company focus and not all women. I think this is a fascinating story, so go for it.
This has been the $1 million question that I think over the last month I have been asked repetitively by mainly white women, not necessarily Black women. And I think a lot of people, and I admire you, Lee, because you and I had a conversation before we came on here and you sought to understand, which I found that a lot of people have not taken the time out to seek to understand why that is my focus. And so as you and I had discussed, my reasonings for working with Black women are really database.
So hold on a second, Doc. So I always come from a learning perspective, right? That's a teacher kind of thing.
Right.
Or are other people coming at you with this? Are they asking you, or are they being judgmental, or what's the alternative?
They are being judgmental. They're passing judgment. They're making assumptions that I am a racist. That I am discriminating against white women. And as I shared with you earlier, I've also been told that I'm not a Christian and that my behaviors are not Christ-like. And I think a lot of that is just really far-fetched. And I think it is people willing to stroke their own insecurities and their own egos versus sitting down and having a conversation with me and saying, well, why is this? Like, I want to understand versus past judgment. And then when I check you, because a lot of people let the cute little smile fool them and think that I won't check you, and I really will. That then it becomes they're offended, and then it becomes, oh, well, I wasn't judging you. I really wanted to understand. Well, you didn't present yourself that way to me in the beginning. And, when and a lot of people miss the boat. I was a clinical social worker for 23 years. I did forensic social work. So I worked with criminals. So basically I can sit there and just listen to you with a smile on my face. And I know if you're lying, if you're telling the truth, where you're coming from, based on different things that you're giving off that I have learned to observe in my clinical studies throughout the years. So a lot of people think they know me and think they've done their research on me, and they really haven't. So on top of being an entrepreneur, I was a clinical social worker for 23 years. I was one of the few African Americans in my area who did what I did. Worked with the DA's office, worked with child protection, would go into court, serve as an expert witness. So you're not dealing with small change over here. So wow. I can pretty much pick up on how a person is presenting to me within the first 5 seconds.
I feel pretty proud to even be sitting in this chair talking to you. So, all right. So go ahead and talk about that,
So basically,
why Black women only?
Right. So basically, it is the data. So as a business strategist, as a business coach, I always tell my clients, don't assume who your ideal client or your ideal audience is going to be. You need to look at your data. You need to look at your numbers. You need to look at the demographics. You can use your analysis from social media. Instagram is a great place to start if you have a business account, because it does break it down into like those demographics for you. LinkedIn at one time used to do it back in the beginning. I'm not sure if they do it now. So over the years, I went in and had what you would call maybe like your cohesive marketing advertising, where I included everyone. But in January, as I was coming into 2020, I decided, let me sit down and really take a look at who is my ideal client? Who have I worked with over the last 4 years? And when I sat down and looked at the numbers, I was pretty shocked my own self. So I have worked with over 600 women since 2016 when I started this. And when I looked at those numbers, out of those 600 women that I have worked with, 3 of them were white and 3 of them were Hispanic. Everyone else was a Black woman. And she was either in the United States, Canada, or she was from Africa. So I've had women from all over. And so at that point, I said, your ideal client, the person that you serve, is the Black woman. No one else is really coming to you and wanting to work with you, no matter what your marketing has been. Black women have been the ones who have gravitated towards you. So as you would tell your clients, your marketing needs to start reflecting your ideal client and the person who comes and works with you on a consistent basis. So that is where that came from. It came from data analysis from the women that I have worked with since 2016, looking at all of my data, looking at my numbers, and realizing that Black women are the ones who sign up for my services, who come and attend my live webinars, who work with me in one-on-one coaching. When you're looking at 6 people out of 600, that's less than 1%.
Yeah. So it has nothing to do with anything else but facts, data and facts. Wow. And you're accepting those facts, right? Wow. I think that's a big part that many of us miss because there's ego involved, and fear and all these other things. But your statistics clearly showed what market you should be focusing on. No different than any other business would do, right?
Right, exactly. And so this is what any other business owner would do. You're going to look at your demographics. And so when you go and apply for a loan and they ask you, who is your client? Who do you serve? You can break it down in race, age, socioeconomic background. Well, I can do the same thing. And so, for me, I will admit that coming out in January, because that was something that you just don't do, is, because of how are people going to perceive it. And I did have people in my camp to say, well, I don't know if you just want to say you only work with Black women, you're limiting your market. And I said, how am I limiting the market when they don't come and work with me? I'm not limiting anything. These are women who work with me. And so I need to let them know that I see that, I understand that, and my marketing needs to reflect that. My marketing no longer needs to reflect women who don't give me the time of day when it comes to being a business strategist and a business coach. They might listen to me live on LinkedIn. They might visit my website, listen to my podcast. But when it comes to opening their wallets and pulling out their credit card, they are not going to do that with a Black woman. That is what my data has shown. So people can stop being mad at me and maybe start being mad at themselves that's I went with the data. And you and I, Lee, we talked, and my background is in higher education is research. So I've always taught the research classes. And so I was like, I would be going against everything that I teach, both in the classroom and with my clients, if I didn't honor my own numbers, my own statistics, and my own data.
You practice what you preach.
That's right. I'm going to back it up. So
there you go. So let's ask the next big question. If another type of woman of any other race came to you and asked for help, would you turn down her credit card?
No.
What about a guy?
No.
Okay. So you really are open to working with anybody, anywhere, if they can afford you.
Right. That's the bottom line. And
that is the bottom line.
In our membership program now, I have a membership program. And so we just had a guy sign up last month. And he's attending the classes and he's just sitting there hey, how y'all doing? And the ladies are just that's a guy.
Actually, that's brilliant research for him, isn't it? I mean, to hear how a businesswoman works and thinks, and that's a pretty good investment.
And so he's there, he's asking questions. And so I was just like, I'm loving it, you know. And so he's not the first guy. He's actually the third guy that I've worked with in that capacity. So I love it. He's there, he's present, you know, speaks to everybody. And, you know, they were just kind of like, wait, well, we got a guy in here, you know, but we're rolling with it. And just a couple of months ago, we did have like another Hispanic female to sign up for the program and work with us. So yes, other people from different backgrounds, you know, come in. I don't say no, but again, my data says you only really, your main demographics are Black women.
So Dr. Carey, here's the bottom line with that. And then I'm going to move on to the next question, which is about resources and the variance between what's available for Black women and white women, or, you know, Black men or white men. It doesn't make a difference. The bottom line is that you are running a business.
Right.
You're marketing, you segmented your market, and you're targeting your market. That's it.
Right.
That's it. If somebody wants to work with you and they can afford you, you will work with them.
Yes.
So that's the end of that discussion, right? So there now should be no more questions about why your marketing is focused on Black women. I think we can move on from that. Let's talk about resources. So you and I spoke about this briefly on our prep call, but I did not realize that there was a difference. I really didn't. I thought that all resources were available to everyone. I had no idea that again, marketing, I think a lot of that is marketing, could be marketing and awareness, but then there's just nothing. So tell us the difference. What's available for Black women in business versus white women in business?
There is a big gap, and the gap actually starts with economics. So, you know, first we need to go back and do like a whole econ class, but basically, there is a wealth gap between Blacks and whites in America. And so whites have always had a bigger advantage than Blacks have. And the first data that they collected was back in the 1960s. And back then, I want to say the differential gap was maybe Blacks had maybe like 1,000 compared to your whites who were working with maybe 7,000 in wealth. Like that was what they would have access to. And Blacks may have been even lower. Now let's say that we're in 2020. And when we look at those numbers, if you look at the average Black household, their access to maybe wealth might be 14,000. Whereas the white middle class American family, their access is going to be maybe like 170,000. So there's a big gap. And so when we have that big gap, that gap also impacts when we go to the bank and we're trying to get loans for our businesses, because we still don't have the wealth that is needed, because you can't go to the bank and get a loan if you're broke. You still have to have some kind of assets and some resources. And so Blacks usually don't have those accesses and those resources when it comes to loans. And so then what happens is that your Black woman, when she's trying to start a business, her resources are going to come from family and friends. So if she needs a loan, she's going to go to her brother and see if he can give her some money, or she's going to go to her parents. If she has a 401k at work, she's going to see how much can she draw down from her 401k. So the way that we finance our small businesses are going to be totally different than a white woman is going to finance her business, where she can probably go to the bank with a business plan and she can get a loan and not touch any of her resources, where we, on the other hand, have to tap into our resources. On top of that, you also have to realize that when it comes to us in the workforce, that many Black women leave the workforce because they are underpaid, because that pay gap also carries over into the workforce. So someone like myself who has a PhD, and I'm a living witness, I've applied for jobs that I've been overqualified for, and I didn't even get an interview. I got a Dear John email that says, yeah, you were qualified, but we went with someone else who was qualified. And social media is the telltale. I get on social media where the person who got the position was a white woman who's like maybe 20 years younger than me. So that means she has 20 years less experience than I do. And she's probably getting paid more than me. And if she works for a state university, that information is public knowledge. So I can go and find out what the salary is that they were going to pay her, which was probably less than what they advertised on the advertisement that I received. So we're dealing with stuff like that. And at some point we get frustrated and we start to say, I can just go start my own business. And there's probably a chance that I can do a little bit better on my own than I can do working here, going through this, being harassed, being discriminated against. And on top of that, I'm not getting paid for my knowledge and my skills. So when we talk about the lack of resources, it's not just how people think of it in one dimensional as them as Black women having access to business classes and trainings and a business coach. It goes a lot deeper than that when we have to start looking at the economic pay gap and the wealth gap that exists between Blacks and whites in America that has been created pretty much since slavery ended.
We've got so much work to do in this area. Do you think that recent events have opened up eyes, or do you think that they've closed eyes, or is there a chance that we're going to get this fixed by the end of the 21st century? I can't even believe it's not fixed yet, but.
Yeah. And so, Lee, I can honestly say this from a Black woman, Black woman who has lived this her entire life and who have watched, I had grandparents, my paternal grandparents are buried in a cemetery on a plantation. So they're buried in a slave cemetery. They were sharecroppers for this plantation owner. So their house was owned by the plantation owner. I grew up with that, and I'm only 51 years old. And so I hear the arguments that are taking place on social media. I've had the Black women to jump into my inbox to tell me that I need to be quiet because I'm upsetting white women. And this is my perspective. It's not going to change in a month. And it's really not going to change when we have people who still want to be comfortable. And as you said, these conversations are going to be uncomfortable. And some people don't want to be uncomfortable. Some people still want to be comfortable. And then there's also still a group of Black people who want to make sure that they're comfortable because in their mind, they have a seat at the table. And so as long as they're comfortable, then no one else matters. And so as long as we continue to have that imbalance between all races, we are never going to come together and be where this country needs to be. And that is just me being very honest. From the events that have taken place with me this past weekend, where I have someone who owns like a multi-million-dollar company telling me I'm not Christ-like because I decided to work with Black women. Girlfriend, we really ain't gonna change, okay? If you mad at me,
no, we're not.
That $500,000. I mean, you have a multi-million-dollar company. Why are you messing with me? Chump change over here. Like, I'm not even in your league. And so when we still feel that we have to push our power around and we have to still make people feel uncomfortable when, I'm not the one that should be feeling uncomfortable at this point. I should be comfortable to say, this is what has happened. This is how my people have lived over these years. And yes, as a Black woman, I am comfortable saying that I'm going to help other Black women figure this out and learn how to be successful in the society that has been created for us to try and function. And I'm going to teach you how to function. Come on, let's go. We all going to be successful in this together.
Dr. Carey, let me just tell you how I'm feeling over here about all this. In my right hand, I'm imagining a flute of champagne toasting you. And in my left hand is a fork just shoveling in the cake. Because it just, you know what I'm saying? You want to celebrate what you're hearing, but I'm so frustrated that we just can't get past ourselves, can we?
No.
So I will get to everybody else's comments in just a minute. Believe it or not, we've only got 6 minutes left in this half hour. I know it goes by fast, doesn't it? So I have one more question for you. What was it? And what have you found to be the greatest hurdle for Black women in business, and how is this different? So you did touch on this a little bit when it comes to financial. Is that really the hardest thing for them to get through, or is it an emotional, can I do this? Do I have the confidence? Do I have the support? right? I mean, or are they all on equal footing?
I will say this, that we do have the emotional aspect of, hey, I got this great idea. I don't think, I don't know what to think. And then we have a conversation. I'm just like, okay, you can do this. This can be done. After we have that short conversation becomes the long conversation of they're like, well, can I apply for a grant? Is there funding from the SBA? Girlfriend, no. So then I have to bust their bubble and say, I know you've heard all of these great things. That's not true for a Black woman. And so your narrative is going to be a little different. And so the way that you get funding and you support your business is not going to be what you've read in the business books that were not written by Black women or by Black men for Black women or for Black men. And so, again, it becomes how we are all being educated. And so then I have to break it down that those resources are not there for them because financially, they cannot prove that economically they could even sustain if the bank gave them that amount of money. They don't have that much in access and resources and assets that can be liquidated. So that becomes an issue. So really when we think about it, their biggest hurdle is usually financial, usually getting the husband on board. Like once the husband figures out like, wait, hey, like Dr. Kerry helping us make some money. They all in, and I usually got the husband sitting in the background doing a coaching session. He taking notes too. So
it really is a family affair. Yeah,
it becomes a family affair. And I have husbands holding their wives accountable for stuff like, Dr. Kerry told you need to do X, Y, and Z. What are you doing? And I'm just like, really? He was listening to us. But usually it's not the support. It's usually the finances that becomes their biggest hurdle. And it usually takes them years of being in business. And usually these women are having to, they're going to go after venture capitalist funding. They're usually having to come up with $1 million or $2 million on their own before a venture capitalist is even going to entertain them to give them money for their business.
That's very different than what I hear from Silicon Valley startups.
Yes, it is. And that's the part that they don't talk about, is that when you look at the number of Black businesses that are receiving funding, especially Black female businesses from Silicon Valley, from those venture capitalists in that area, it's like 1%. So we are not being included in that number. But the reason we're not being included is because they want us to come in the gate with like $1 million to $2 million. Even with all of these grants that companies are giving in the name of they're supporting Black businesses, when you read the fine print, most of them want that Black business or the business owned by a Black female for her to be generating $60,000 to $100,000 a year in her business. Dude, if we're making that kind of money, we don't need a grant.
Not only that, I don't know of too many startups in the tech space that make money in the first few years. Right.
So the odds are stacked against us coming out the gate. So the expectations that they set, it's like, so it's kind of like, here, I'm giving you a carrot, but when you go after the carrot, I'm pulling it back and I'm taking it out of your reach. Because of these are the criteria that I'm saying that you need to meet. So really, and again, it goes back to the question that you asked earlier. Do we see anything changing? No, I just see a bunch of smoke screens. I see people, doing a lot of talking. I see people taking down monuments and, all this other stuff. But I don't see any significant changes that are being made that are really going to help Black female-owned business owners. I don't see it.
And this needs to start at the policy level, right? And it needs to work its way down from the CEO all the way down. So we're talking about public policy as well as corporate policy, governance, and all those things. So these are right. So who's ever watching this right now, you have to understand that I'm learning right along with you. And Emily Edwards said it right. She said, "Lee, welcome to our world." I don't think anybody really has, at least I can speak only for myself. I will never speak for anybody else, but I know that I did not know the gravity of what you have to go through and what it differs. And I've never applied for an SBA loan, so I don't even know what that's like. So for anybody, but and God willing, I never have to, but we'll see. So let's talk about what Emily is saying here. Emily is saying that the problem is systematic. Recent events may have opened eyes, but the change is subpar. Some people are just talking to appease us. That's going to be nails on a chalkboard. Greatest indeed funding. I can attest to that as a Black female trying to attain funding. So it's all about funding. PJ Walker. Hey, PJ. Hope you're doing well. Yes, the only reason I've been successful in my own business is that my white best friend of over 25 years coached me. I mean, yeah, that's how it's supposed to work. Your best friend is great if they know how to do the business side. Another anonymous LinkedIn user said, "Love this talk, and I'm learning and listening. Thank you for this." So, our time is up. That was a very fast 30 minutes. I want to thank everybody for joining, and for those who participated. Most importantly, I do want you to reach out to Dr. Carey. You can connect with her. She connects with everybody. I've not seen any or heard anything that says she doesn't connect on what. If she'll talk to me, she'll talk to you. Okay, the lowest common denominator here. But I encourage everybody to have uncomfortable conversations. This problem isn't going to go away until we do. And if you have an uncomfortable conversation, and if I were to disagree with Dr. Carey, I would come right out and say, I disagree with you. The fact of the matter is, I can't disagree because I have never lived in a pair of shoes like hers. Never. So, and it's just that simple. It really is, right?
It really, really is. But if anybody wants to, if you really want to see what it is that we're doing, I invite you to please visit the website, which is thebeautybrainsandbusiness.com. That's where everything is housed. That's our network. And you can just see all the different things that are going on, the different females that are part of the network. And also to help close the gap as far as the wealth gap, I do invite people, if you're listening to this, please consider donating. So we have started a GoFundMe account to help support some of the businesses that I work with right now. And so you can visit donatebeautybrainsbusiness.com, and there you can make a donation in any amount. And once we reach $500, GoFundMe will contribute an extra $500. And we're planning to use that to help support women who can't afford the services that I offer, and to also give small grants to Black female business owners as well.
I love that. What a legacy you are creating. That is
trying.
You are trying, and you keep trying, and let me know how else I can help you do exactly.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me, Lee, and for having this difficult conversation today.
And we're both smiling at the end of it. So how difficult was it? I think that when you come from a place of learning and not judging, you can have any conversation. It really is just that simple. But that's not so simple because egos are involved. So every now and then we got to check that thing at the door. So anyway, again, thank you all very much for joining us. This was a great conversation, and likely there will be more if Dr. Carey is willing to do that. So.